Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Welcome to the High Velocity Radio Show, where we celebrate top performers producing better results in less time. Stone Payton here with you this morning. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast with IceBrekr, Mr. David Castro. How are you, man?
I am fantastic and excited to be here with you.
Well, we are delighted to have you on the show, man. I got 1,000 questions. I know we're not going to get to them all.
Love it.
I think a great place to start would be if you could articulate for me and our listeners mission, purpose. What are you and your team really out there trying to do for folks, man?
Absolutely. So we believe, and this is strong for me, I've been in sales my whole life. The life that you're dreaming of is built through the connections that you make. And that's true whether it's personal or professional. And so what IceBrekr's mission is to help you to make the connections that matter. And that can be for extroverts. And I'm more on the extroverted side. And that's kind of how I began the concept, but found that it's fantastic for introverts as well. So everybody is going to achieve what they want in life through the people that they connect with, surround themselves with, because you don't do stuff alone.
Well, you're definitely singing our song here at Business Radio X. Amen to
Love
that.
it.
So I got to know, man, what's the backstory? How did you arrive at this? It probably, if you're like most of our guests, it probably wasn't a straight line. Tell us about your backstory.
Yeah. So I was working like 5 different jobs, and that's just to make a nice, easy to say number, but working my way through school, and somebody snagged me into their startup. It was like they literally, what are you making now with all this stuff? And they offered me like $1 more an hour. I'm like, sold. And so it was me and the owners, one of the owners, the wife and her black lab retriever in the basement. And that paid the bills and got me cooking on sales career. We got bought by a big company, and that was the next, decade of my life, being there, making good money, good career, but always in sales, always doing that stuff. Wanted to get into entrepreneurship. That didn't come later until I moved to Nashville. It was a family decision. We moved down here and just didn't feel like what I was doing was the thing that I wanted to be doing, but couldn't get back to federal government sales and stuff like that because there's so many people in the DC area that were right next door, right? So I think that's changed a little bit with the remote work stuff. But this is the opportunity to get cooking in entrepreneurship, and I don't know how much I should go into detail there on the pre-story to IceBrekr, but had a couple stints of creating stuff, usually in the tech, world, because that's where I nerd out. And I found myself at one point, always in networking events. So I always found myself in networking events and networking situations. And just like most of us who do that, we're aware of the fact that, hey, that guy over there is a competitor, right? And who is he talking to? He's talking to the guy I need to be talking to, or this room is big and like I haven't connected with somebody yet who would make this worth my while for being here. Like a lot of great conversations, and these are wonderful humans, but it's 9 to 5 and I'm putting food on the table, and how do I get my ROI? So things like that, right? So I was driving down the highway down here, so 65, and I'm connecting my phone to my radio because I had an old car and, whatever, that's what you used to have to do back then.
Sure.
And there was, meanwhile, people are flying by me at 75 miles an hour or whatever, and I'm picking up their phones. And then just like, it just started hitting me. I kind of like have a shelf in the back of my head of like cool tech. And so think about ways to use it. But I just started pulling that string. I was like, okay, so I'm seeing their phone. That is basically an appendage, and it's got its unique identifiers. Like each phone and the radio signals have like a social security number, basically, right? Unique universal identifier, and it's basically an appendage of that person because it doesn't move more than 6 feet away their whole day, and they can, approve being attached to this number and saying what they want to say about themselves. Anyway, so that's how the idea came about, and I just realized, hey, now we have the opportunity to have an opt-in utility, network, so to speak, that's only eyeball distance. It's not, it's not GPS. So very organic. Again, privacy, turn on, turn off, whatever components of your profile that you want. But then folks can know who's in the room, and you can filter for who's your ideal connection to help you to make the connections that matter most.
So now that you've been at it a while, you're out there, what are you finding the most rewarding about the work? What's the most fun about it for you, man?
Oh, man. I am an artist, on the side, not professional, but decent. And the thing that you love most about creating stuff is when people react to it. Like, you want to bless people, right? And the coolest thing about what I'm doing right now is seeing people like just have the aha moments and the excitement. It's a lot of fun when you tell somebody the story and they and they're, oh yeah, that's super cool. But then when it actually happens in real life, man, that's beautiful. I had an event where someone came up to me and was asking me, hey, how do I do this? And she just wanted me to help her put her keyword in to her filter. And we did that. And then boom, like it was somebody showed up that was her ideal person. She's like, I got to go. I had to go talk to this person. And just awesome.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun. So let me back up a minute. When you made that leap to true entrepreneurship, that had to be a little bit scary. I'm trying to envision you coming home to your spouse or your significant other and, hey, I'm leaving this world where I'm making a good living and I've kind of cracked the code here and I'm going to jump off this cliff. What was that like? Or was it all butterflies and unicorns?
Man, I got to tell you, I was pretty lucky on my first rodeo, I guess, so to speak, in entrepreneurship. It was a friend of mine who's also in sales who had the subject matter expertise in healthcare that we utilized. And it was basically a dashboard that helped doctors to understand what these patients need that came in so they could check the boxes to make sure the patients were healthy, and thus they'll get a bonus from, Medicare or whatever. Right. So anyway, but we had a partner that was helping us build it who, these guys were data experts and they had some clientele as well. So I was like the sales guy selling our new software build and selling, this other thing on the side. And we started off with, we pitched the idea to a client, and the client loved the idea and wanted to basically pay for it. So we had it built by our first client, and then we just went to the other folks with credibility and a product. So it was pretty pretty fortunate. Yeah.
Well, I love the idea, and I often will counsel people who occasionally will ask me about some strategies for getting their thing off the ground. And I love the idea of a client-funded startup.
It was amazing.
That is the best.
That is the ideal. And even if you can't get it funded, obviously you're the first thing you're doing is saying, hey, I know I can benefit from this, right? I would buy it, but I need other people's money to put food on my table. I need a lot of clients, not just myself as the client. So yeah, that's huge. And it's actually very common. And if you're in software or you're familiar with the software development world, that's what a lot of these folks do is they'll build something for someone, and they'll often say, hey, we're building this for you, and we'll give you a discount if we can use it. But software development companies have a lot of stuff, in the back, right, on the mothball that they can bring out after having somebody else pay for it, basically. But that's depending on what your idea is, that's definitely viable. And it was for us. Again, it was an industry, it's healthcare industry, very large. These guys are focused on providing healthcare. They're not trying to, create an enterprise software product. And so ideas like that definitely lend itself to that.
All right, so let's dive into the work and the service around IceBrekr, including the what and the why. What really compelled you to marshal your forces and put this thing together.
Yeah. So, again, it was out of need, and also out of like personal need, just awareness of like the fact that this doesn't exist yet, which is phenomenal. What we do have on the market are the platforms that folks are a part of in the virtual world, but getting from the virtual world to the present, right, into the physical world, that's a different ball game. I can and I have, and you have too, probably met somebody on LinkedIn. Maybe it was an introduction or whatever, and then you go to the coffee shop and you can't tell which person you're about to meet with is in the room. It's like they don't look anything like their picture. So, I mean, even on the professional side, you got what they call catfishing, right? Like,
right.
And then, if you're going to an event or a conference, you want to do your homework ahead of time and see who's coming and that type of thing. But great, they're on the registration list. Now what? And this is why a lot of events don't use apps, because they're basically just a registration list. I mean, you see a lot of events going back to paper because there's the agenda and there's the contact list or whatever. And but they could be not coming that day. They could be out of the room. Just because that they're coming and you want to meet them doesn't mean that it's going to be a thing. And so these are all the reasons why I thought and validation from people that I interviewed that would be potential customers, they all concurred. So that's how we got started, and how I got started funding wise, bootstrapping this through the sale of that healthcare startup, my first startup.
All right, so use cases, some specific examples of where this tool is just, man, this is the right place for this tool, and this is how and why this is. An event would want this, and an individual would want access to the tool in that surrounding.
Yeah. So it's a tool that's fantastic for folks who have somebody in mind that they're looking for. And, if you put your keywords or the type of person you're looking for, when you walk into the event, it'll notify you if that person's nearby. You can look at your discovery screen, see everybody who's nearby, but it'll highlight, who that person is. And, so you can look at their profile, and then you'll say, validate why it says that this is your ideal person, and then walk up to them with a sense of like, the IceBrekr data that you're looking for, or that would help you have that initial conversation. The other folks that helps is just introverts who feel overwhelmed with a bunch of people in the room and would love to know a little bit about some of the folks who are nearby, right? Again, you can break the ice that way. You're in a 20-person mixer, and everybody here is someone that you'd want to meet. On your discovery screen, you can look at people's profiles, and in there, their LinkedIn address or their socials or their, whatever it might be, and instantly connect with everybody. So if you're on the small side, understanding what people, or remembering people's names, understanding or remembering what their elevator pitch to make an introduction to somebody else who's in the room, say, hey, you need to go talk to this guy. He does what you're saying, I think. Connecting with their socials, etc. Small side of the, small sided event. Going upstream, if you don't have an event app right now, IceBrekr makes a ton of sense because you can have your agenda, your itinerary, your speaker bios, sponsor ads. They're all native. You could put those in there. Plus all the features that make IceBrekr the powerful thing that it is. So, but the bigger the event is, the more powerful it is because you're more awash in a sea of humans. And which one of these people are my ideal connections? And the more days it is, the more the ROI you could have from it, and also probably the more money you've spent. So the more ROI you want. So as you're walking through the venue, you're able to either look at the discovery screen and see your search or whatever it is, or just allow your keywords to notify you, and then say, okay, Stone, where's he? That's him, and I'll walk up and say hi.
All right. So is this something that the event organizer needs to underwrite for it to be available? For example, we do a lot of trade show and conference work. We didn't there during COVID, but that business has picked back up again. So, for example, next month we're going to be at a thing called FinTech South. We'll be broadcasting live on behalf of that organization. We will probably have a third-party sponsor, sponsoring the interviews, the radio for that day. And there will be a lot of people there. So would FinTech South have invested in this, and it makes it available to the participants, or do the participants have it individually already, or how does that piece work?
Great question. My vision is that at some point, in the same way you have a phone that you're using to dial somebody, or email that you're using to email, that IceBrekr is the solution, the utility that you use to connect with people who are around you who want to connect, who want to network. So at some point in the future, I envision that you can go to a conference and other people are going to be having it. So you're going to be benefiting, right? You don't need a registration list to do IceBrekr. You're walking around, that type of thing. And then event hosts can dip into that stream, so to speak, right? And what we monetize and what they would pay for is the agenda, the speaker bios, the kind of the sponsor ads in the app. But to ensure that everybody has the app and that they know that, hey, we're all going to benefit if we all use the app. We do have an event package, right, where it's we charge by attendee, and then again, if they want the sponsor ads and that type of thing in there. So yeah, the event would reach out to me, and I'd take care of them. Gotcha.
And then, all right, but let's say this. Let's just play this out a little bit. We got FinTech to do it, or we got us to do it, and then we get everybody in that world sort of in the IceBrekr world. Now we all go about our business, and we get all the benefits of having connected in that way right there. The next time we go to an event, we already have the system, and we're in there, and so over time this sort of grows, right? So is there also a path for individuals to just join straight up, or does it pretty much have to start through an event like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I that's part of the vision, is that everybody has it already.
Right.
And the event host just basically like connect to that stream, basically connect to that community, that user community. I'm in Nashville. I envision that at some point in this region, in this area, metro area, folks are going to go to one of these coffee houses that's constantly being used as a networking, location, and they're going to turn their app on because there's other people in there that they want to meet. I go in there and I see somebody I know meeting with somebody that I don't know, and I'm like, I probably should know them, right? Because they're meeting them, or I do know who that person is, but we haven't met yet. IceBrekr would enable things like that are both serendipitous, but also I can message them or connect with them without having their phone number or that type of thing. So if they're open to it,
I love it. So how does, and maybe more accurately, how is the whole sales and marketing thing working for you right now? Getting people out there to adopt this and use it, do you have some sort of, are you out there, like, do you need to be shaking the trees, or you're out there just creating awareness? Like, how do you
It's a combination.
That's all.
Yeah, it's improving, the tuning of the stickiness of the app, meaning like we're going through a UI refresh right now, and
Mhm.
it won't be the last, but
Sure.
so it's feedback, it's watching people, and that's what we did a lot last year. This year, it's heavily shaking the trees. It's having more events that we've done with proof basically of the value of it, and getting that word of mouth and those referrals and stuff to other events. And then there's the marketing of it, which now that we have the assets to prove that we have great my cat, God bless him.
Welcome.
um so now so we have a marketing campaign that we're kicking off to really kind of ramp up, because this thing needs to be used by everybody. It will be something that is a worldwide phenomenon, and it might as well be IceBrekr, because we have the vision for it.
Yeah. So you're talking to event organizers, associations, you're building those relationships, you're connecting with them, and you're building
Right.
relationships with just relationship oriented organizations and people that really resonate with and truly understand and appreciate the value of connecting with people, and yes, taking full advantage of technology, but squarely inputting the human component. Where
Absolutely.
it's
It's our goal is to bring people together. People can look great on paper, and but when you get there in person, it's like, there's a vibe there, right? That's why every hiring manager wants to meet the person in person. So there's that personal vibe thing that's so important in the in-person side. The relationships are just so much stronger when you're in person, and really, what our goal is to connect people. And then they'll go and use, you know, other platforms or whatever it is to do whatever that they want to do. Like I mentioned, we have the profile links for their socials or their, LinkedIn, all that stuff. Our goal is to connect people that are in person, to make that powerful in-person connection with the right people, and then let them take it from there.
I bet you and your team are learning a ton about networking in general too. I mean, you could probably, if you chose to, generate a lot of thought leadership about how to fully leverage the fact that now we've got this great tool. Here's some great strategies and tips on networking virtually online. Here's some things you ought to keep in mind to make the transition and network and truly get benefit from the in-person connection. I can see you and your organization, and maybe you're already doing this, really being almost an education hub too, to help business people just like me and my team get out there and really forge those relationships. And I'm really enamored
Yeah.
with the idea.
Yeah, it's spot on. It's really cool because I see a Venn diagram of folks who are doing personal development, and they're talking about, growth of the soul, basically growth of the person, right?
Yeah.
And then that overlaps with the person who's all about the strategy and the sales and the what to do and how to do it. And then another Venn overlap of the tech, the format, the platform, the venue, right? So yeah, I've got a keynote cooking on this topic. So
Yeah, well, and what you have here is a movement, for lack of a better term. To me, this feels like a movement, and because it does, I genuinely want to know what we at Business Radio X, but like-minded people, listeners who hear this, really resonate with the idea. What can we be doing to help? Like, what would help you the most from our listener base to kind of really get this puppy off the ground?
that's phenomenal. Thanks so much. One thing we have our probably most used social right now, which is IceBrekr on Instagram. and on LinkedIn actually. So if you want to connect with me on linkedin.com/, IceBrekr. IceBrekr spelled, it's linkedin.com/company/IceBrekr, LinkedIn. But if you search for IceBrekr on LinkedIn, it's spelled IceBrekr. So it's spelled differently. I always say first two E's, no a-hole. IceBrekr.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure when we publish this on the Business Radio X Network site and get it out on all the podcasting platforms, we'll make sure that in the transcript and in the publishing and all that we have that so that it's easy for folks to link to. So for people to go on these platforms, support it, engage, interact with you, and those of us who know people who are organizing events, those of us who know people that take full advantage of participating in events, we need to just get the word out and let people know about it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome, Stone. Yeah. That's it. And then download it and give me some stars. There's a digital business card on it that anybody can use, even if you're not at an event, right, with other people using the app. And that's going through that'll be upgraded too. But right now it works phenomenally for being a digital business card. So that's a great way to be using it, and give us some stars. That'll give us some SEO on the app stores.
So my vision and desire for you is like Carfax. Like they've kind of trained people when they're buying a used car. I want to see the Carfax. So now if I'm going to go to an event, where's your IceBrekr? You've got IceBrekr, right?
Love it. Yeah, that's
sponsor an event.
I love that vision. Yeah, that's great. I'm adopting that. That's cool.
I'm going to switch gears on you here for a minute before we wrap. I'm interested, and I don't know where you would find the time, but if you have any outside passions outside the scope of your work. Most of my listeners know I like to hunt, fish, and travel. Right,
Nice.
just something I can nerd out about that gives me a little white space between my work and the stuff we do at the network. But yeah, anything else you dive into? You mentioned briefly the art, so maybe that's it. But yeah, say more about that.
So I really should kind of get back. Well, actually, I've illustrated for a couple book authors.
Oh wow!
So that is something. But man, I've been on this Latin dance kick, salsa. My dad was born in Puerto Rico, so I've got that background, and it's a lot of fun. There's the athleticism and kind of the art of physical. It's like physical art, right? To the music, and it's a lot of fun. I like riding a motorcycle. But the IceBrekr's taking up a lot of time. But when I'm not doing that, I'm hanging out with my kids. We're probably hiking, chasing waterfalls. We have a lot of fun together, and outdoor stuff and salsa dance. And
it sounds like you find this to be true as well. And I know I do, and a lot of entrepreneurs and founders that I speak with, as focused as we can get, and given the level of energy that we pour into our work. I find that it is important to create that, I call it white space, to create a little distance. And it allows me, like for me, sitting in a tree stand, even if it's not hunting season, just sitting in a tree stand with a camera it gives me a chance to recharge, right? And sometimes I come up with some of our best ideas. I come up with some squirrely ideas that we don't implement too, but I come up with some of my best ideas. For me, with a line in the water, or sitting in a tree stand. Same for you.
Yes, yeah, it's so critical to have that, and it's one of those things where the not urgent, important but not urgent, sometimes can get overlooked by the things that seem to be pressing for your attention. But those other things are the mundane bricks, right, that hold everything up, and right. So important. Yeah. That's a great reminder. I love it.
Speaking of ideas, I knew I wanted to ask you about this, and I asked other founders about this too. Do you have like a methodology, a structure, a rigor, a discipline around your ideation process, or does it just kind of come to you in the shower or at the waterfall? Or what comments, if any, do you have around this whole idea of not only generating ideas, but what you do after you've got the nucleus of an idea, what you do to move it forward?
Yeah, great question. As far as thinking about an idea and then kind of noodling on it and pressing it forward, I one of the first things I do is if it's not like a multi-million dollar, in my estimation, potential opportunity, that's the first thing, is like, what's the how big picture is it? Like and this is just me. There's some riches in the niches. I totally get that idea, but for me, being a tech guy and being on that side, it's always kind of a tech related idea. In that case, I'm looking for, a really big story, like a really big idea, because if I can get just a part of that, then that'll be lucrative. And at some point, you have other players and competitors and stuff. So it helps you to have something that's a really big story that everyone can, going to use an analogy of, like, you down and, somebody on the safari, some animal on the safari downs a big animal. He's going to get some, right? Other animals are going to come and jump in, but he's going to get some.
Right.
So that's one. And then from there, it's like, all the problem solving. And I don't know if I do it the same way other people do, but, it's really punch as much holes in as possible. And then at some point, after you feel like you've exhausted that, then a trusted person to punch holes in it too. But the punch holes part is the most, ego taxing, but so critical.
No, that's an interesting observation, because once you start to get emotionally invested in an idea, or I'll speak for myself, I intellectually understand I need to let people smarter than me poke at it a little bit, but it's also, it's like my little baby, right? I'm a little reserved, and I don't want them to punch it too hard.
Yeah. So that is really, so you got to be a problem solver. Like I think an entrepreneur, and it's in their core, they are problem solvers. All they're doing is they're monetizing a solution to problems that they've seen.
Yeah.
So that's part of the process, is letting somebody punch holes and then practicing problem solving. And at some point, if you can't solve the problem, then you should probably let it go. But another cool thing is if somebody poo-poos it, but you're really confident and you have done the work, to problem solve that. And then you're just like, okay, that's fine. I don't need everybody to be like on board. That just means there's less people that are going to try to like jump in on the same idea. Right. So, but yeah, problem solving is the key. So when people punch holes, that's just your, invitation to practice.
Well, and people like you have your antenna up for problems in the marketplace. And when you hear them, you kind of run it, you run it through your system and say, I wonder if we could create a solution for that problem.
Yep.
And that's a fun part of the entrepreneurial lifestyle and ethos, I think. Okay, let's leave our listeners, if we could, with a couple of, I call them pro tips, but because you're so immersed in this world, maybe a couple of pro tips on, and certainly entrepreneurship in general is fine if you have something to say about that, but maybe we stay in your specific domain around this networking, I guess, on maybe networking online or making sure that you combine the two and don't just leave it there. Let's leave them with a couple of pro tips. Okay. And look, number one pro tip is reach out and have a conversation with David or somebody on his team.
Absolutely.
That's your best pro tip. But short of that, maybe something we could be reading, maybe something, whatever you do this, whatever you do, don't do this, something like that.
Well, I'd love to give a shout out to a friend of mine who wrote a book that has just been great. And the title, is fantastic. The depth of the book goes a lot broader than just what the title. The title is Unstoppable Self-Confidence. But it touches every area of your life. And when I was talking about the Venn diagram earlier around networking, one of those is the personal growth, right? And the level that you're seeking to get to is Donald Miller, I think, talks about this. It talks about the hero's two journeys. Like you have a goal, and it's this hero's two journeys is in every movie. The person has a goal that's monetary or achievement oriented, whatever it is, and so that's one journey. And the other journey is they have to become better, internally. They have to overcome internal challenges or whatever personally. They have to become the person, right? That's the second journey. So that's the hero's two journeys. So anyway, so as far as a book goes, I think that's a fantastic book, Unstoppable Self-Confidence by Andrew Leadham. And it will definitely affect your success positively. Let's see, as far as, the other thing I would say is in networking, we can be impatient. And I think when you're impatient or you're too eager, then that's a lot about me and what I want or what I need. And what you really want to do is just connect with the human in front of you or on the other side of the internet, right? If it's virtual networking, and be there to be of service. If you're talking with someone about something you're trying to sell, then you should be in the mindset of, I'm selling this to be of service. Like that you got to get that right first. But once you get that right, then the next thing is, I don't need to close them in the next conversations, or in the next few. If I am being of service to them and my product is going to serve them, having that kind of atmosphere and approach, you're not only will your success rate go up, your network will grow, and therefore your volume of opportunities will grow, and people will be bringing you in to more opportunities and referring you and so forth. But that mindset part is an important part of networking, and I think that's probably the most important part of networking is the human connection aspect, not your elevator pitch.
I am so glad that I asked. Well
cool.
said. Marvelous counsel. All right, let's make sure that we leave our listeners with a way to tap into your work, maybe reach out to you and have a more more substantive conversation with you. So whatever you feel like is appropriate, but let's give them some coordinates and let's make sure that they have those social handles again, and then any other thing that you think is appropriate to share. I want people to be able to tap into your work and create a relationship with you and your team, man.
Thanks so much. LinkedIn, I'm like the most active on LinkedIn, to be honest with you. David Castro. You again look for IceBrekr. IceBrekr spelled IceBrekr. I always get a chuckle if I say the first two E's, no a-hole. So you.
I like it.
And so you can find me at CEO, founder of IceBrekr on LinkedIn, and then Instagram is the other one that I'm most active on, and we'll be more active here on Instagram soon. But would love it if you reach out to us and followed us there, and that is again at IceBrekr, IceBrekr. There's a bunch of IceBrekr, spelled all kinds of different ways in the app stores, but there's except no substitutes.
Well, David, it has been an absolute delight having you on the show, man. Thanks for sharing your insight and your perspective. Keep up the good work, man. What you're doing here is so important. I don't think I'm overstating it to characterize it as a movement, and we want to support your efforts in any way we can, man. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, man, same. Stone, great to meet you, and thanks so much for this conversation. Really enjoyed it.
You got it, man. All right. Until next time, this is Stone Payton for our guest today with IceBrekr, Mr. David Castro, and everyone here at the Business Radio X family saying we'll see you in the fast lane.